There we go. Welcome everybody to the candidate forum for District 11. My name is Jean Roberts and I am president of the League of Women Voters of Appleton. The League would like to start by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional land of the Menominee Nation. Currently, there are 11 federally recognized Native American sovereign nations in Wisconsin and one, the Brothertown, that is not yet federally recognized. We acknowledge these indigenous communities which have stewarded this land throughout generations and pay respect to their elders past and present. Thank you all, and thank you for your interest in this forum and your support of the democratic process. This is a nonpartisan candidate forum for voters to get to hear what the candidates have to say. It is not a campaign event and not a debate. We stand for civil discourse. The candidates understand that no candidate information is allowed to be displayed during this event. This Zoom forum is being recorded and will be made available on both vote411.org, the League's Webby Award-winning website, and the League of Women Voters Appleton website. It is also being live streamed on Facebook. We ask all those watching this forum to refrain from making any partisan comments on the League of Women Voters Facebook page. Any partisan comments will be deleted to conform with the League of Women Voters nonpartisan policy. The League of Women Voters of Appleton owns the copyright to any audio or visual recording of these events. Unauthorized videotaping falls under the rules of the FCC, which requires that a forum must not be edited and must be broadcast in its entirety, either live or reasonably soon after it takes place. In addition, the League of Women Voters of Appleton candidate forums must not be referenced as a source in any campaign materials. While there is not a sign language interpreter, there will be closed captioning available on the YouTube video, which will be available through the League website. In addition, the videos are available in Spanish. Prior to tonight's forum, residents were invited to submit questions to the League email. Some of those questions will be heard tonight. These questions have been sorted before they were sent forward. This was not to eliminate questions, but rather to group them into like categories so that we have the opportunity to ask as many questions as needed to cover a variety of topics. We have a timekeeper. The League has always found this process to be a good means to keep us on task and moving along. It is not meant to cut people off or diminish the importance of a response, but simply to use our time wisely. And finally, we would like to acknowledge the candidates from District 11, Kristen Alfheim and Sean W. Park. We are all grateful and thank them for their willingness to run for office and serve their community. Jacqueline Klimaszewski is Director of Voter Services for the League of Women Voters. Jacqueline has planned and organized this forum. She will be presenting the questions to the candidates. Jackie?
Thank you, Jean. Let me add my gratitude to the candidates for your time this evening to share your viewpoints with our voters. And I want to thank everyone who's watching this for caring enough to be informed when you cast your votes in the election on April 6th. I have the pleasure to moderate the forum this evening. I have questions, as Jean described. Some are from the League and some have been submitted from interested citizens ahead of time. All questions submitted, asked and unasked, will be sent electronically to the candidates. Their written responses will be on the League website for you to view and use when deciding your vote, and those will be up there. We have to give them some time to respond, so probably in a week. For each question, each candidate will have a minute and a half to respond, and that will be monitored by our timekeeper, Julie. I may alter the time for longer if there are some more involved questions and depending on how our timing goes. We will alternate with each candidate replies to the question so that they both have a chance to be first and last. Before we get to the questions, the candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, provide their background and their interest in being an alderperson for the District 11 of the Appleton City Council. And they are going to respond in the order that they appear on the ballot, with candidate Park going first and candidate Elfheim second. So, Mr. Park, if you want to introduce yourself and explain why you are running for alderperson.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your time, Jacqueline, and hold on a minute. There's no names here except for Jacqueline. So, but I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for letting me come on your program for understanding where I stand with why I'm running for candidacy of alderman. I'd like to be a part of the legislative process such that it continues to address the excellent code of conduct that I believe Appleton has. It's a very good code of conduct, and I think it works rather well. And I'd like to continue to implement things that would see to it that it would be well served for the community. I also like to contribute to the vibrant, innovative local government's well-planned community. I believe I have a lot to offer from having lived in Appleton since 1981, and I've been in and out of many businesses throughout the Fox Valley, and I believe that I have the ability to create jobs as I do with the business I own, and I understand what it's like to have nothing and bringing it to something. When there is no money to have, that's when we start doing things like generating innovative ideas to continue to progress with our revenue coming in, so that we can pay the expenses that the city wants. And I will, as alderman, I will make sure and see too that nothing gets wasted on the budget, and all things are properly informed to the public with my understanding of it all. I will be the next alderman if you elect me, and if you do, I believe that I am going to be I'm going to follow you as my boss, and I will listen. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Candidate Elfheim?
Good evening. Thanks for having me along. I appreciate Jeannie and the league and Jackie to hosting us, and Mr. Park as well. My name is Chris Elfheim. I am fairly new to the Appleton area. I moved here in 2017. Prior to that, I was about 10 years up in Green Bay, born and raised in the central Wisconsin area. Business brought me here. I've been in the retirement distribution planning and management world, in the insurance and financial world for many, many years. I end up in the alderman race because I actually find politics fascinating. I also understand it's extremely frustrating for many people. In my world, I've spent a lot of time in groups, on committees, on boards, working through challenging situations, working through them together, not necessarily having the answers, but understanding that listening to both sides of an argument, or all sides of an argument, is important. Having empathy for all sides of what's going on, and then learning to make the very best decision possible with that information. It is my goal as alderperson to do the very best I can to help our city, help as many people live the best lives possible that we can within the realm of fiscal responsibility. We have to be able to fund what we do. We can work together to have a tight budget. We can move towards a lot of great ideas. There will be challenges coming up. I'm very moderate in my opinions, and I think it's important to listen and just make the best decision we can on topics. Again, I don't come to the position with the answers. I come with the ability to help a team move forward and work through difficult challenges to get to a shared vision or a shared goal. Thank you.
Thank you. We will start with candidate Elfheim on this next one. Far and away, the most questions that I received from both league people and community people dealt with, you guessed it, the library. So let's talk about the library. And so let's give you 2 minutes for this, because this is going to be, this is a complicated issue. What role does the library, do you feel, play in our community? So in your vision for the library, how do you factor in a new building, How do you plan to support library funding? And do you support Mayor Woodford's plan to renovate or replace the library building at its current location? Where are you on this, candidate Alfheim?
That is a loaded question. The shortest answer that I can come up with is I believe in the importance of a library. I believe a library is meant to be a resource, especially to those who do not have the resource readily available to them in their home office or in their homes. With that in mind,
That's my thing froze. My thing is frozen.
It's unfrozen now, Mr. Park.
All right.
With today's difficult situations, I think that we have to look at the entire situation and try to decide, can we accomplish what we need to for the good of those who need it inside of a footprint that makes sense. I think all businesses, all services are looking at today in that, do we need the same size footprint to accomplish it? Does it have to be in the same size building? I believe when Mayor Woodford says that it's an important piece and our community needs one, I believe that's true. I do not, and I will not pretend to know every last nickel of what that plan is, but I will fight to have a good library. It should be in a situation where those who need it have access to it easiest. So I think that kind of bears to the conversation of where should it be. You could argue it may be in many places, but a lot of places that might feel better, it isn't needed. It might be wanted, but not needed. So again, challenging conversation. I do not have the exact answer, but I think it's important to listen to all sides and try and find a compromise that helps the most within the realm of what's possible fiscally.
Thank you. And candidate Park.
Okay, thank you. Yes, candidate Kristen said a lot of good things that I think I agree with. But more importantly, I look at the importance of the library as being someplace as a resource for many that have no resource. And I think the highest importance for spending the dollar that we have towards the library as planned for the Post Crescent, we should invest our money in that type of innovative sources of information. And I think that the new building at this time, if I understand correctly, does not have any plans. The architect they have not picked an architect to draw the plans yet. So I don't know what we're having for a library as far as what we're going to have, what the people want necessarily. But I do know that a new library nevertheless. And I was also under the understanding that the library was going to be placed where the Lutheran church was raised. So I don't know what that was the last I followed it, and I might be off on the Lutheran church's location. But now there are issues with placing it in whatever place we place it, because it's a long-term commitment, and I'd like to understand all the options. If this is the number one priority for the council to solve or to accomplish, then I believe that I could bring to the table a lot of experience from my studies in the universities, and I'll bring to the table a solution finding with the team also. I don't believe that we're against each other on this. I think we're all on the same page. I believe I have the better ability to manage what happens in my community that I grew up in, and I know people in places that use these resources, and without these resources the library have to offer will take away from most of what we are as a people with offering those with less. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with candidate Park this time, and then we'll have candidate Alfheim give her view on this question. If elected, will you support municipal efforts to prevent the further spread of COVID-19 under existing laws as supported by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities?
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't know what the League of Municipalities is until tonight, so I will make that a priority to research and understand as soon as possible. But as far as what I understand, the mayor took a do what you want stance on the issue, and I feel that the proper protection equipment is necessary to be used. It's a matter of science, and without science, we wouldn't be where we are today. And so to stop the spread, we have to do certain things that maintain the 6-foot distance to make sure we wash our hands frequently and for a period of time of 20 seconds, to take care of ourselves hygienically, properly, to be prepared wearing a 3-layer mask and things like that. I'm all for the continued vaccination. I'm happy about the new progress with Johnson & Johnson coming out. I'm really excited to see that it has effective rate of around 73%. So there's continued hope with more vaccines, and I believe that the children should be continued to be vaccinated last in case there is some kind of discrepancy that the vaccine would somehow mutate or be causing them more pain and suffering than necessary should they contact it. But I do also think that our position on it in Appleton should be a strong one of protection and awareness to teach the people that don't think we need it, to give them opportunities to learn why we should practice this effort through a policy of change. Possibly, I'm not sure. I like the policy changes that I see so far in Appleton with the continued support of Common Council, but to just let it go for every man for himself, I think that is foolish. But I think we have a chance to continue to stop the spread, and if we do, we'll be grateful for it in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Park. Candidate Elfheim?
I mean, this is a big deal, and it's not gone yet as much as we'd like to wish it away. I do know that the mayor is serious about it. I saw on the Common Council meeting last week that he had posted a proclamation regarding the masks. He does believe it's necessary. I think it's also a very challenging thing to deal with. Businesses are really struggling. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm a believer in science. I believe that the protocols work. My business was shut down last year as well. And once we were allowed to open up, we followed the protocols carefully, and we utilized local restaurants around the state of Wisconsin, and we followed all of the rules: masks, hand sanitizer, distancing, everything that we were supposed to do, we followed, and we didn't have one case the entire time, which was about 6 months of any COVID. So I know that it works. We're always going to have people that argue because we are a free country and people always want what they want. And I think we can be respectful, but we have to be respectful to each other and everyone around us. So excuse me?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So I do believe we must be respectful to it. I'm a believer in the science. I think that as long as we need to be safe, we need to be safe. I don't think we're going to go back to 100% normal in the future. I think we've all learned something. I would love to see restaurants and bars and anybody else have a proactive stance. Instead of having a sanitizer container standing there like, hey, it's a nice idea, why don't you grab some? Have somebody at the front door squirting the sanitizer on the hands, help take a more active role in it. I think the restaurants are doing a fantastic job, by the way, but I think we can be even better. But in no way would I back off. And yet I know we have to find a way that businesses can get out there and find success again.
Thank you, Candidate Elfheim. And so we'll do 1 minute and 30 seconds for each one of these upcoming questions. There's a couple questions coming up here on housing. So we'll start with Candidate Elfheim for this question. How will you support ordinances and/or other measures, including updating the comprehensive plan to ensure affordable housing in Appleton?
Yeah, you have to have affordable housing. You have to have people living in the city. We can't have everybody leaving because it's cheaper to live someplace else. How to fix that, how to do that, I don't have those answers. There are plans in play that I need to get familiar with and listen to understand why, but I believe it is important for us to have everyone possible live and enjoy our community from all aspects of life, from all cultures. That is what the world needs. And so I'm a believer in that. Again, I'm not going to put my finger on it knowing exactly what that plan is, but I support the concept of making sure that all parties, that everybody has an opportunity to enjoy our great city.
Thank you. Candidate Elfheim, how about Candidate Park?
Thank you. As far as affordable housing goes and supporting ordinances that that would help the affordable housing. I believe that that from what I understand, the housing is creating the building of affordable housing in downtown Appleton area, where there's numerous projects going on. I don't know if they're all by the city or not, but I do know that some is, and I believe that that's excellent for economic growth. It's going to bring a lot of people to downtown Appleton to bring to the markets people with capital to spend and invest on other particular needs that they have with what they want to get out of the housing that they have. Our house is our castle, and if we're happy where we live, we're gonna stay for a while, and that's what we want is people to stay and be a part of it. And we are all a part of a good life, good neighborhoods and good people all together. I think that something that's important is people that are going to be qualifying for this housing are in a marginal group that needs to be supplemented, and the city could do that very easily with funds for the people that have less than what they have otherwise with the market, with people that have good jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. And we're going to extend that just a little bit from what you were saying in this next housing question. You referenced it a bit. How can the city ensure affordable housing is available downtown, as you were talking, so that people can shop and walk to work without the use of a vehicle? In the past few years, some of that affordable housing has been demolished and torn down for other purposes. Should there be a requirement to replace affordable housing when it is demolished?
Am I answering first?
You're answering first, Mr. Parker.
Okay.
Yes.
So the question is, should there be affordable housing downtown? Is that what you're saying? Because
affordable house downtown, and should there be some, if affordable housing has been demolished, should there be some kind of ordinance to?
The housing that we have is only that need for housing is only gonna increase as population increases. The more people we have, the more people we're going to have, as it usually tends to be. And so the more housing we're going to need. I'm really happy and proud of Appleton for taking the initiative to help people that need housing. The homeless shelters that we have one good homeless shelter, and of that homeless shelter, we have other places that put up people overnight when they have nowhere to go. But the demand is so great, and I know people, so many other people that went through the experiences of having nowhere to go. I've gone through some of that in my early past, and I understand what it's like to not be able to afford a house. I understand, or a home. And these apartments that are going up are a godsend for the people of Appleton, because there are a lot of people without that do need, it'll get them onto their feet, and they'll be able to get jobs because they'll be able to afford to pay the housing that we're creating for them in Appleton. And I'm all for the marginal group being able to get more qualifications for housing, so that they can be independent and support themselves in the time that we face, which is a time of uncertainty. But we can get through it together, like we've been saying, and we will make it work for us. And if it's not working, it's not enough housing, absolutely build more. And the more we have the revenue to do it, if we just switch it a little bit around, we don't need to generate revenue, and the housing will generate its own revenue. So it's a win-win all around. The people there get it, we get it.
Park. Thank you. And Candidate Alfheim?
I think that housing is important, and I absolutely support it. I think in terms of replacing demolished homes, I think that part of that conversation we have to be careful of. If we're referring to homes that were demolished, that were run down and in disarray and truly structurally not healthy buildings, I think that we don't necessarily, and I live in a National Registry house. I'm in a historical house downtown downtown Appleton. And in this house, I appreciate history. But sometimes I think that we embrace the historical homes to the point that we don't realize they aren't beneficial to those and those around them. I do think we need housing. I think that we have the flats right below me, I think is a great example of some wonderful, wonderful land and some structure that has some history to it that we can continue to add value. I do believe that revenue is important, however, because as a taxpayer downtown, I pay quite a bit of property taxes. And so I think that we do have to keep an eye to how much do we have, what are we trying to do, how much is going to cost, and how much is coming back to the city for that investment. I do believe that people need to have stake in the game in every circumstance, and that is housing as well. It is true, the more happy people we have living and contributing to our society, the better off we are, and housing will help that happen.
Thank you. And we'll start with you for this next question, candidate Elfheim. What are your thoughts dealing with racial disparity in Appleton housing, policing, and opportunities?
I think that's a great question. And I think that 2020, if 2020 did not open people's eyes more than they have in the past, then they're just choosing to be ignorant. I think that we all have to acknowledge what's going on. I think that we all need to have, in general, a more empathetic ear to those who are trying to voice their frustration and acknowledge that I don't know the footsteps or the shoes that someone else walks in, and they don't know mine. We have to figure it out. There are no easy answers. It's a sensitive answer, and we are truly trying to change decades worth of what we believed to be the right thing. We believed everything that we were doing was right. I do not believe that anyone in Appleton or in our Appleton government has purposely caused harm, and yet we have harm happening in our community. So how do we fix it without trampling over others? We have to start figuring it out. That begins with open conversation. It involves an inclusive conversation. So we are hearing all of the voices, all of the opinions. And again, we acknowledge that what we have now is imperfect and it can be better with the help of all parties.
Thank you, candidate Elfheim. Candidate Park?
Okay, very good. I looking at the real voice of Appleton with the people talking about any inequity occurring within the city. As far as I know, there's very little in Appleton going on with people feeling as inequitized as due to the situation they're experiencing. I see far and few of that unless I'm being misinformed. I think we have very good community when it comes to values like this, and the values are promoting growth, and it's not just a race issue. It's a we are all in it together issue, and some of us have experiences that we don't feel are as desirable as others, and we can call the card of being treated poorly with whatever words you want. But we have other issues, like we have mental health providers. We need to help communicate what these differences are to us and how we can break them down and learn to get through the things like financial struggles that might sometimes be the root to being able to pay for the education you need to be able to learn how to have a good conduct, a good code of conduct, if that's necessary at all, to be decided by a group of leaders. And that group of leaders, I feel I'd be a very good part of if I was put there. So if you elect me, I will definitely put you first with what you want.
Thank you, candidate Park, and you'll start for our next question.
Right.
So how will you resolve the tax increment financing, TIF, District 11?
As far as the tax increment, what?
I'll finish the question.
Tax increment,
here.
what?
Increment financing.
I'm frozen
TIF.
here.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Huh?
You're free. I'll start that question again. How will you resolve the tax increment financing, the TIF, District 11 impasse? What is your stance on preserving downtown Appleton's healthcare clinic, preserving Soldiers Square, and allowing parking for the YMCA while completing the agreement with US Venture to develop the Bluff 1 site?
So we're saying we want to raise taxes to restore and maintain what we have downtown. I think if it's a cost-effective means, by raising taxes. I'm not for raising taxes at this time. I think we need to save, if we're going to raise taxes, I think it should be for matters that are very pertinent to the very need of survival. We have vaccines that we're getting for free, but we have other equipment that we should be spending revenue on and preparing for the changes that are occurring in our society now with the disease and all. But if we work together and say that we all want these places preserved or to be maintained and kept up, if we can do it for a nominal amount of money, I think that could be a win-win scenario for all of us, because like myself, I take pride in downtown Appleton. I take pride in Appleton, and Appleton is home to me and home to many of my people that I know inside my life and circle of wanted love. And it does come down to love. And I love people, and I love Appleton. People, places, and things are all the priorities and that we have. And to keep it is to stay strong and to not raise taxes unless everybody agrees. We can put it up for a referendum on the ballot and let the people decide. That's not really my decision.
Candidate Elfheim?
I'm a believer in the TIF program. I think that it's important for us to be able to help the downtown raise, elevate its entire presence. And you can't do that with help. As business owners in any category, capital is capital. And if you can get help from the government to help accomplish it in a low-cost program, that's great. Now, from a taxpayer standpoint, I think that we have to be careful. And I think that's a reality answer, that as many things as we want, we have to be able to make a list and have checks and balances. We talk about housing, we talk about all these things. The reality is, unless you are a homeowner in Appleton, your property taxes, there's not as much contribution. So we have to be mindful of what the tax situation is. My taxes went up 20% in the last 3 years on my house. My value didn't really go up. So we have to realize that somebody has to pay those bills, and we have to work through it. I like the idea of a downtown clinic. I like the idea of making our town even more attractive to bring dollars in and more revenue in. But we have to be able to check and balance that math to make sure that we are giving the very best to our community and those who visit, give those who live here and work in this area, and not beat the heads of the property tax people that are paying the bill.
Thank you, Candidate Elfheim. We'll start with you for the next question. Will you support increased accessible and affordable public transportation within our Appleton community and link that transportation to other communities?
That is a great question. I believe in public transportation. If I look out my window, I can see a bus stop, and I see buses go by every single day. And to be honest, there's rarely anyone in them. And that is part of my problem. I do believe we need public transportation. Everyone should have the ability to get where they need to go in town and connecting the communities. However, I think it's important to investigate the cost of the vehicles that we're using and perhaps alternatives. Do we need to have full-size buses? Could we be looking at some type of a smaller vehicle? Does it make sense to look at something that is in the electric category? Again, I don't have the answers. What I do know is that we must ask questions. Yes, we need it, but do we need it in the same shape that we have it now? My belief is no. Judging by the lack of volume in them, we at least could be looking at smaller vehicles, perhaps even a larger fleet, but smaller, so that we can get people where they need to go and want to go safely, efficiently, and all of those things, without getting crazy and replacing an entire fleet of buses that no one is sitting on by and large.
Thank you. Candidate Park?
Yes, the Valley Transit helped me grow in my life, and I use that transportation as a means to make everything work for me. And I've seen a lot of people on buses while I was using it, and sometimes I didn't even have a seat, depending on what bus I was taking. And I'm very proud to have a good transit system like the Valley Transit system is. The fact that they have a $15 million grant, I believe, or something like that. If they were to buy buses at 100,000 a piece, you could get probably enough buses for about maybe 40 buses or so. If it's or the grant was for about 40. I'm not sure exactly how much it was, but a lot of money is going to the grant, and I could look into that closer. And I'm all for the money going towards the Valley Transit developing and making their resource to the people even more so. And I like Christian's idea. I think it's an excellent idea to maybe downsize the size of the new buses so that it's cost effective and perhaps even energy efficient. Electric buses would be even better, because that's an investment in our stop of carbon footprint. And I think also that people want to invest in the buses so that they can get to school. And schools the students need to get to get that $1.6 billion Everest is putting in the economy.
Thank you, Candidate Park. You will start this next question. Will you support more online services for our community, including non-social media communication systems accessible to residents so that they can participate in resolving governmental issues?
So give them a chance to have, what was that? To give them a chance to express their views on the issues. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, right, exactly.
I think that we do have means for that happening now. If I recall correctly, for example, Mayor Hanna went in. He had time for the public. He set up an office and said, "Okay, if you want to come talk to me, here's my time for you. Please come talk to me." And there should be more of that going around with all the candidates, and to have easy access to the websites, so that to have them spread around. Because to be really honest with you, before this alderman run, I found it very difficult to find any information on any of the things that are going on until I started finding resources with the online, and then it opened up a whole door. So to make that readily available to the people that need to be able to help decide. And they are the ones that are receiving these services, so they should be the ones determining, since they're paying tax dollars also, they should be the ones determining how these resources get allocated and distributed amongst them equally and fairly, so that no one's getting special privilege from them or anything, as to be making it a very healthy, good win-win scenario for all involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Park. Candidate Alfheim.
I think involvement is important. I think communication is always the secret to everything. So anything that we can do to make it easier for the residents of Appleton to be able to communicate freely with the people who represent them, that's a win. Online, again, COVID has taught us a few things, and one of them is to utilize technology. I have a 94-year-old grandmother, and she can FaceTime me on an iPad. So we have to use the resources that are available to us. Now, you can't make people communicate, but I think that all we can do is have open arms to it. My intention is to have set hours, set schedules, to have those who want to communicate. I know some on a regular basis and some every now and then. Make it easy for them to find me, whether it be Facebook, whether it be email, whether it be a phone call. But to have hours available, I know that Mayor Woodford has that now. There are hours available every week that you can go have a conversation with your mayor. How many people do it? Not many. Not many. And that's a shame. I don't think the right thing to do is to wonder why something happened if there's no involvement with it. So all we can do is make people feel comfortable that they can reach out, they can ask a question. Our job as alderperson is to listen first. It's to listen. So we have to be able to hear what's being said. We have to be able to take that information with empathy and pass it forward and try and accomplish what we need to at the Common Council.
Thank you. You will start this next question, Candidate Alfheim. Have you been studying the climate resiliency recommendations of the League and the city's climate task force, and what actions should the city prioritize to deal with these concerns?
I do not have all of the details of that plan down. I'm excited. I have been interviewed and filled out surveys for a number of organizations that have to do with the climate. What I will say is that I am a believer in science. I am a believer in following the rules that are laid out to make our planet a healthier planet. The only thing that I stipulate that answer with is that I think sometimes we can have a shared vision to get to a destination. We cannot necessarily get there as fast as we would like to. And again, I'm saying this without knowing the plan that's laid out, but I think it's important to know all of the numbers and the timelines that go with it. Wanting to get there and being able to get there at the same time isn't always possible due to existing contracting and leases and whatnot. So I would hold that answer just to the point that I can have more information to say, yes, I agree, or instead just at this point say, I want to agree. I want to agree with the philosophy, but without the rest of the detail, I can't put my stamp on it 100% yet.
Thank you. Candidate Park?
Hey, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Have you been studying the climate resiliency recommendations of the League and the city's climate task force? And what action should the city prioritize to deal with those concerns?
Okay, the league and the task force. Those are two different entities, I take it?
They are. They are.
Yes. Okay. I know little about either of them, and but I take great gratitude in knowing that I watch my personal carbon footprint, and to take on this issue with what they are representing. I don't really want to at this time say what I would stand on with that, but I can say that with the methane capture at the landfill for profitable dollars is definitely a plus, and we're doing stuff in this community already that is very, very healthy and good for the future of our children and children's children, and the steps that we're taking now. But there's other steps that we could take with other issues, such as clean water going into the river that we allow to be disposed of by runoff from the fields and streets and things like that. But I believe that we have a winning scenario because we have the ability to do whatever we choose to put our minds to, and we will make it change together so that we have a safe tomorrow. And I don't believe it's too late to make these changes. And I really like public television because Wisconsin Public Television, because it shows a lot of this stuff being fixed for the planet, and it gives great ideas, option for us to take into consideration for what we could be doing as a community, which is happening throughout the world already.
Okay, thank you. And you'll start this next question, Candidate Park. This is about voting. The League is all concerned about voting.
Absentee.
Early voting in Appleton is the 2 weeks before the election day. So that's March 23rd. I thought I'd get that little plug in there. Early voting starts on March 23rd. It's only at the clerk's office and with a few adjustments during the regular working hours. Expanding this would take additional funds, particularly for the large elections. Would you favor expanding those early voting hours?
I'm all for early voting hours. More importantly, I'm for the absentee ballot. I believe as much resource getting out to the people for multiple availabilities for them to vote, and to make it easier for the elderly. I don't believe that coming downtown or coming to their voting booth is necessary. They can vote when they're ready to vote because they have one vote and it's only one vote they take, and it's very important, and it should be given in multiple abilities to achieve. And to pass up vote would be a real loss. I believe all people have a say, and we express it rather well with our vote. So I think that early voting is a good thing if people use it, and if they don't use it, well, there's other forms of waiting in line and doing things that comes on voting day when we all rush down there. So I don't know how many people are going to vote in the spring election. I assume not a whole lot based off of what I understand about politics and things like that. But if we do have a decent turnout, I think early voting would be a plus for all of us. And I think we could get somewhere with it, and it would be a winning scenario for anyone that needed to feel like they were giving everybody the right to vote when they wanted. Thank you.
Candidate Elfheim?
I believe voting is a privilege, right? We all should be doing it. Everybody should want to go vote. And yet that isn't necessarily the philosophy across the board. I believe that early voting is good. I have no problem with the concept of early voting. I do think that if there's going to be early voting, then the votes need to be able to be counted right away. The collect and delay the count thing, I thought that was atrocious. I think it was horrible listening to the news because all of the votes came in late. So I think that we have to clean up that, and there has to be agreement that if we're going to have them early, that then we can get them counted ahead of time as opposed to delaying the outcome. I do think that voter boxes are valid. I do think that mail-in voting is valid. I think all of that works as long as you can be counted as a registered vote. It is completely valid to expect there to be only one vote per voter. I will share that I actually almost voted twice this year. I came out in the last election, I went down to vote, and the gentleman said, I think there's something wrong, there's something wrong. I forgot I had voted by absentee. Little things like that do happen. So we have to make sure that mistakes don't happen and everybody does take advantage of their one vote, and we can trust those results as they come in.
Thank you. We'll start this next question with candidate Elfheim. Will you support obtaining Formula Block grant funds as lobbied for by the National League of Cities to build back better this year for our infrastructure, workforce, housing, and to reduce gun violence?
I am going to say that I don't always support the block grant concept. I don't always support that. Do I support things to help against gun violence? Yes. I am a gun owner. I was raised in the country. I do not think that all people that own guns are bad. However, I think the idea that certain rights are above others being safe are not true either. So I think that there does need to be something done. I think that in some cases, I will say in terms of infrastructure, everyone needs it. Every community helps right now. Our roads need it desperately. We absolutely have some projects that must get done. And I do believe accepting funds is the right choice in many circumstances. I do not, however, think it's always good to give and give and give, knowing that resource is going to disappear, and then we're going to have to try and take it back or walk it backwards. My feeling is once you begin to give something, it's very hard to take it away. So again, I'm saying that in kind of a half and half answer. I believe in accepting dollars, but not always, and not with a blank check mentality.
Thank you. Candidate Park?
Yes, I believe that the block grant, the money that is coming from the federal government is a huge plus because it does add to the resource pool that we can draw from at the cost that it takes to make it happen. I don't really have much to say about this particular subject at this time, but if someone wants to get my opinion on it at a different time, I'd feel more at liberty to express it. I have a couple inclinations to what I would want to say on this particular question, but I'm not gonna at this time until I further understand what's going on with the grant. There's a lot of grants going on out there, a lot of money coming from everywhere, going to everywhere, and it just seems like this is just another one of those grants that we might be expecting or and then depend on. I don't know, but revenue is important, and I don't know if you really want to consider grants revenue, but it does add up and it does help. So any money is better than no money, I say.
Thank you, Candidate Park. We'll start with you for this next question. How can the city find adequate funding for road repair and infrastructure without borrowing?
Well, that's a really good question, and when you have a budget, you look at what the money is coming in, you look at your expenses and what's going out. And if you have a surplus, that's your profit, and usually your profit or money for developing more equity in your company. I believe that if the people of Appleton want this this money to be there, they would have to. Can you repeat the question, please?
How can the city find adequate funding for road repair
Yes,
and
yes, okay,
infrastructure without
The money,
borrowing?
the money should come from cutting expenses if we have to make our roads a priority. I do not want to raise taxes at this time. If it's up to me to make that decision on taxes. The people don't need to be paying more money at this time, I don't feel, for certain things like that, unless it's really causing problems for the community or people that are needing these resources. And it will be something that comes up to raise taxes, and I'll vote no to raising taxes unless it's a severe, real true priority. And I know Appleton rather well, and there are some roads that need repair, but I believe that we shouldn't be focusing on these types of issues when we have other issues that are more important. But we can discuss them in committees. But the true attention should be to other issues such as our education, our pandemic, and other matters like that are going on that we have to solve or to better help the people.
Candidate Alfheim?
I think our roads are kind of a big deal. I mean, this is a beautiful city, and we have some sections where we have seemingly a whole bunch of brand new roundabouts, and then we have one block over roads that are falling apart, and I think a tricycle might fall into the pothole. I don't think that's good. I think the reality is that there are wins and losses that happen with every decision. And the reality is that as our gas mileage has come down on our vehicles, via electric vehicles, better gas mileage, all of these wonderful things that we've done, we're also using less gas, which means the tax revenue coming in is lower than it ever has been. The reality is that everyone uses our roads. Even if you use public transportation, you use our roads. I think we have to figure out a shared vision to add value. Do I want to pay more tax? No. I don't think anybody does. But the reality is, if we're using less gas, we are technically spending less tax. Our taxes are lower than they have in the past. If I have an electric vehicle, I have an electric bike. I think that's a good idea. If you have something electric, you still are using the roadway. So somehow, some way, we have to create revenue. I'm a believer in the wheel tax, especially on Highway 41. A wheel tax, think of all the semis that travel up and down. Wheel taxes would help drive revenue. If it's on a local basis, we all have to share in having a safe infrastructure for us all to commute around. We have to. And so we have to be creative. We all have lowered our gas mileage. Now we have to somehow recreate that revenue, and you can't squeeze it. Those that are using it still need to fund it.
And you'll start with the next round here. If you want to reduce or cut spending by the city, what would you cut and by how much?
Oh, that's a loaded question, isn't it? I don't have that answer. I'm not even going to pretend I have the answer to that question. What I do have is rational thought. I have rational thought in the ability to listen to what's on the budget, listen to what people would like to have on the budget, and then listen to the reality of what we can afford. And then with the help of others, including the groups like the League of Women, including all of the groups out there, listen to what comes down to be the most important, prioritize, and do the very best we can within those means. I don't have those answers. I don't think any single person has the answer. But do we have people that are capable of communicating concisely, capable of listening with empathy to all sides of a conversation, and then helping to lead the group forward to a rational choice? I believe I am. That's not a person with the answers. It's with the skill set to help coordinate the answer and put it into effect.
Thank you. Candidate Park?
Yes, I believe to reduce and cut in the budget, from what I understand, I have a City Appleton 2020 budget, and they express expenditure by fund group, and then to understand the fund groups, but the total is around $191 million being divided up into percentages, and it does require quite a bit of understanding to be able to read or comprehend exactly where each individual dollar goes, which takes extensive time and a lot of work. And to be quite frank, I'm not going to put in all that work until I know I have the position as alderman if I'm elected. And if I am elected, I'm not going to be looking to reduce or cut to raise or make higher. I'm looking to maintain and just being there to observe and get a feel for what the legislative process is headed towards with Appleton, and work with things like with the labor unions and collective bargaining as an importance, to fund the people that are in the city to get the right to collective bargain with the city, for the union. I believe is priority for a somewhat degree, because some of the people aren't getting the funding for their services through wages that they should be. There should be more money available for them for the hard work they do and other things like that. But there's capital project funds and special revenue, debt secured funds, and all kinds of funds that are involved. I will get to the
Thank you.
bottom of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Park, and you will start this next round.
All right.
Sure I'm on the right. What would you like added to quality of life for Appleton residents in general and for your district specifically?
For quality of life, I would like to see it, if that's relative to the individual, and but we have common needs that we share, to have ability to continue to receive certain basic needs in life. I think if we could add services for more services for the marginal group, and to take of people, and to take all ideas as a possibility, to weed them out and to let the people decide where to spend the money for services, if we're going to spend the money at all. And if we do spend the money, we should take careful consideration into how each dollar is spent, such that we can account for it in a real terms way, and to put back the tennis courts that the city took out for people that want to play tennis like our children, or to put back other social service type programs like the YMCA, but have it run by the city for the youth, so that they can go in there and learn, and to get out of that one failing class a year that they're getting in Appleton. I mean, 1 in 4 students are failing. We need programs that they're going to go out and have fun after school, where they want to go to. What's cool to them? Let's ask them. Let's see what they say we should build for the future of Appleton, for things like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Elfheim?
I think that District 11 deserves the right to enjoy the beautiful Appleton itself. I mean, we have a wonderful river going down. We have the trees. We have beautiful roads. We have beautiful parks. We have a beautiful downtown. I think everybody should have the ability to feel part of it. I think that we need to make sure everyone feels heard. I think that we have to make sure that we have a community that has a shared vision, that no matter what part of the city you live in, that we feel that we are together in the shared vision of trying to accomplish a healthy lifestyle that allows us to get along, to enjoy life, to live well, and to prosper. And I think that not everybody feels that way. And I think it's important to start that conversation. I love what we're doing in terms of the park below on River Drive. I love that bridge that's crossing over, connecting the two sides of the district together. I want people to be able to be walking. I love these projects that are going on that are getting people outside and moving together. I love the farmers market. All of these things, which we have to be healthy. We have to have a healthy infrastructure. We have to have a healthy municipal. We have to have a police department that understands who we are and what's going on. This is all important for us to share, and communication together is the key to get that done.
Thank you. So we have the closure. We have one more, and we start with candidate Elfheim, and it basically gives you a minute and a half to talk to your constituents in District 11 and tell them why they should vote for you.
Hello, District 11. I love people. I love being able to talk to people, to be able to listen to people and what they have to say. When I talked to Patty Coonan, I think last year, and she mentioned that she was stepping down, my answer was, do you think that I would be good at that? And she kind of spun around and hollered at me the way that only Patty can and said, yes. And I think that's fun. Now, I enjoy talking to people. I've been doing Madison and Washington, D.C. for about the last 6 or 7 years, dealing with people in red ties and blue ties. And what I have learned is that we have more in common than we have different. And if we can work on what we're trying to accomplish together, we have a better shot of finding common ground and moving forward. My strength is listening. My strength is asking questions, and my strength is pulling people together to accomplish more. That's what I'm good at. That's what I want to do for District 11. I look forward to this, not as a project, but as something that I really think I can help with. I hope I'm given the opportunity. Again, Chris Alfheim, I live at 340 West Prospect, right down the road, and I hope to meet all of you very soon.
Thank you. Candidate Park.
Yes, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I can. So, why should residents in District 11 vote for you?
Okay. I believe that District 11 is a broad percentage of the population of Appleton that has a little bit of diversity for income. One area it's a little higher income neighborhoods than others. And I believe that as District 11 alderman, I would be able to bring to them the truth about things like the election voter fraud going on, voter votes going on in the post office, the simple things as to helping economic development growth occur downtown Appleton, especially with the bars and restaurants being affected by it. I also believe that candidate Kristen Alfheim is correct in that we have more common ground than we do otherwise. But if we do run into that one uncommon ground while we're on a jury or something, it's hung and then we have to redo it. So, I mean, we have to watch for things that can come up or crop into our decision-making process for what is going to happen in the district. And if you vote for me, I can guarantee you that you'll get fair representation, and I will be for the little guy, the guy that has the need to be represented and heard, so that we can get more for each individual out of the community's resources that are available. So I think that communicating is key, and we can communicate together.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that both of you candidates were so open and shared your views with us. I have a few closing remarks that I need to say. And I have a slide coming up. Any second now.
Huh.
We're going to highlight some of the upcoming forums. We have tomorrow is the school board forum for the Appleton School District from 6:30 to 8, and you can see all of these other ones on here. Recently added, there is a new branch 2 in Calumet County Circuit Court. That position didn't exist a year ago, and so we will have those candidates. We do have a number of districts in the city of Appleton that are in Calumet County. So that's an important thing to include. And then there is the slide of voter timeline reminders. Online voter registration is open until the 17th. If you haven't registered, you can do so online, or if you go to the clerk's office, you can register there after the 17th, before as well. Be sure you've got proof of residence as well as your ID. Online absentee ballot requests can be done very easily on myvote.wi.gov. The suggestion is to have these mailed in a week before the election. And then the in-person absentee voting is going to start Monday, March 23rd. You do need to check your municipalities for the specific times of those. And then on websites, the recordings of these forums, all of those forums, this one included, are going to be on the League of Women Voters of Appleton website. I understand that there was a little bit of a glitch in getting our Facebook started, and so there was a little bit of a delay, but I want everybody to know that's on Facebook that you will be able to see this in its entirety on the website. So if you are in a situation where you need a witness for your absentee ballot, let the league know. We have people who understand exactly what needs to be done legally to witness that ballot for you. Just let us know from the website, contact us. You can check your registration, polling location, in person. All of that stuff is on myvote.wi.gov, including what the ballot is going to be on the ballot, and that will be like in the next week or two. That should be up. And then I'll remind you to nonpartisan voter information is on vote411.org. So thank you again to the candidates, and thank you to the members of the league who helped to make this forum a success. Jean, Julie, our timer, Dave, Barb, behind the scenes folks, Shirley, Brian, and others, and all those folks who sent in questions. I appreciate all of you. We are all volunteers here. So we do this because we feel it's really important. So thank you, candidates. Good evening to you all. And we will hope you join us for future forums.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.